Morning, friends and family. John Miller, your Lake Stevens Realtor, coming at you on March 1st, 2021. We're getting into springtime and longer days and warmer weather, I hope, at the very least. So it looks that way. Look, I don't think we're going to get more snow and freezing temps, but anyway, happy March. Okay, so today's subject, I didn't have any questions from clients, but there's a subject I'd like to talk about that's going to be going into effect here in the next couple of days. And we have some significant forms changes from our Northwest Multiple Listing Service. And so I'll give you a brief background of the MLS and kind of how that all evolves and how they do things and how that's going to affect you and me specifically, your agent and you as a consumer. The MLS is member-owned cooperative. Our MLS, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, is actually one of the largest multiple listing services in the United States. And an MLS is basically the clearinghouse for all the listings that are being brought in by all the cooperating agents all over the state. So I can access any listing in the state, and I can sell any listing in the state. That's basically what cooperating membership means. A lot of MLSs in the United States are actually run by the local board of realtors, which is fine. Ours is not. Ours is a member-owned cooperative. We self-regulate, we self-govern. Virtually all the discipline that happens, if there's rules violations or any problems, happen at the MLS level. So the state is rarely involved in our industry, at least in the realm of discipline. So, which is kind of funny. We run our own organization and it disciplines up. I've never had a disciplinary action or fine in 16 years, for the record, but we self-regulate obviously for a very good reason. We just we want to regulate our own, as it were. The MLS also creates and maintains these statewide forms that we use in Washington State. Even there's smaller MLSs, they use the statewide forms that our MLS has created, just to have some consistency. And I think that makes sense for consumers that, regardless of whether you are, whether you're in Seattle or Walla Walla or Spokane, you're using the same form over and over. All the people that are in the state, they're using the same forms. We're all trained to those forms. We receive training, especially as new agents, as how to fill out those forms, how to do listing input, and that is something we spend a great deal of time training. New agents get 90 hours of training before they can do anything. As a managing broker, I had 120 hours on top of that, just to become a managing broker. Every 2 years, we're required to have another 33 hours of continuing ed. And then we have issues like this, where we have a bunch of new forms. We do have new forms and significant changes to some forms. This is probably the largest forms change I've seen in 16 years of selling real estate, at any rate. But we do receive extensive training. And it brings me to the point that normally, if you have someone on your behalf, an agent, prepare a contract for you, that is a practice that's typically limited to an attorney. The only reason that I can prepare a purchase agreement is that I've been trained in the use of these specific forms, and I'm basically just kind of filling in the blanks. Now, as for which forms I use, and there's over 100 contingencies. I mean, there's all these addenda and contingencies. That's my expertise. That's what I'm trained to do. And they're always a reflection of the client's needs and wants when it comes right down to it. And that's part of the service that you get. And I've told people, a lot of people ask, gosh, it seems it should be streamlined. There should be like a dummies guide or a checklist or some sort of thing that this could be done by anyone. Here's the issue with that. Every real estate transaction is different, every single one, primarily because every piece of real property is different. Every buyer is different. Every buyer has different needs and wants. Every seller is different. Every seller has different needs and wants. And so every transaction is going to play out just a little bit differently. At any rate, so that's kind of the background of the MLS and the forms that we use. In this case, on the 3rd, we're going to have a number of forms changes that are going to go into effect. We've known about these for a few weeks. We have been attending classes and reading bulletins and looking over manuals. So the question then obviously comes to me, are there going to be any changes that are going to affect me? As for how we purchase homes and list homes, not really. If anything, it's going to make it a little bit easier. A lot of these changes were done in response to consumer feedback and agent feedback, which is fine. For example, some of the terminology that we use can be very confusing to even consumers and new agents. For example, the agent who represents the seller is the listing broker. The agent who represents the buyer is the selling broker. And that can be a little counterintuitive when I speak about, he's the selling broker, and people are confused. What does that mean? If he's selling, isn't he representing the seller? No, he represents the buyer. At any rate, we're changing that terminology globally. So I've learned 16 years to learn those terms. I'm going to have to unlearn them. Now it's going to be very straightforward. The seller's broker and the buyer's broker. Very straightforward. And that's done to keep things easy. There were significant changes to 3 of the addenda: the financing addenda, contingency, the inspection contingency, and the escalation clause that we use. I'm not going to go into the details of all of the changes and how that, all the details of that, because I would be here all day. And literally, the forms class I took was 3 hours long, and I'm taking another 3-hour class here next week. The legal bulletin, and the manuals are exhaustive for that reason. At any rate, if you have any questions, obviously, come to me. We are still generating questions because this is all new. It's a lot. There were changes to 16 of our forms. We have 11 new forms. We eliminated, I think, 5 forms. So this is a pretty big change for our MLS and what we do. The good news is brokerages like John L. Scott and us here in Lake Stevens, when we saw the changes, we made it a priority. We ensured all of our agents understood the complexity and the level and the impact this is going to have. Most of us have already taken the MLS class. We've got a few stragglers, but our brokerage knows it's a priority. We don't want to, make a mistake. We want to be continuing providing you the level of service that you expect. So that's the bottom line. So again, any questions about that, let me know. And as time goes on, as I write offers or list properties, that's my job, is to explain the forms, answer any questions that you have. So interest rates 2.99, and that's a little higher than we've had for about 7 or 8 weeks now. We had some volatility in the bond market last week, so we were expecting a little bit of a bump in interest rates. There is talk about that rate increasing. A lot of lenders are starting to put up kind of the red flag, saying, hey, we've got a lot of people that are pre-approved, but they're right on the edge, and if we start seeing real increases in interest rates, they're not going to be approved anymore, not at that price point. So, and obviously our market is still very strong. We're going into the springtime, and everyone's going to be out looking at houses. We're obviously, we're all expecting a lot more listings, and I do. I've got 2 or 3 coming on this month as well. But it's still very, very busy. A lot of multiple offers, very, very low inventory. So any questions about any of that, reach out to me directly. Wherever you are, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.